Good morning, guys. This morning we are working on being able to determine the meanings of words or phrases in a text, use context clues to give meaning of a word or phrase, and then consulting a reference source to find the actual definition. So a reference source would be an online dictionary or a dictionary at home. Right now everything's online, so I have an online dictionary pulled up. Let's see. So using context clues, you can't see it. Move it over just a little. Using context clues means that we use clues in the sentences around the word to help us figure out if we can determine a meaning. So a lot of times we come across words we don't know and we're unfamiliar with. And so we have to use the clues around the word, either in the sentence before, the sentence it's in, or the sentence after, in order to figure out what the word means. And sometimes authors give us examples of what the word means in the story, or they may give us a synonym, so another word in the next sentence that gives us an idea. But that's what we're going to work on today. So looking at our story from yesterday, which was the first town meeting, a little bit, we have the first word that they have given us to define, which was emerged. And that happened in the very first paragraph. That's kind of our little introduction to what we're reading. So it says, it tells the story of a group of people who have emerged, tired and hungry, from an underground city. And we talked a little bit about this word yesterday in our lesson. But as I look at the word emerged, I see that people have emerged from an underground city. So that leads me to believe that emerged probably means, well, that's not what I meant to do. Here we go. From the underground. So it probably means to come to the surface or come up into the open, because they're coming from underground. So if you think about things that you know of that emerge, like maybe a groundhog on Groundhog's Day, or animals that burrow in the ground. I went to my dictionary, my online dictionary source, and I typed in the word emerged. And you can see that emerge actually means to rise up from or come into view. So I'm going to add that to our chart. And just to show you how we can do this, we can go here, we can left click, make it blue, right click, copy, go back to the chart, left click, and paste. And there's the actual definition for us. Okay, so we're going to begin looking at some more words from our story. And on our chart, they give us the page number to look at. So we're going to look at the word, we're going to look at the clues, and then we're going to come up with our definition and some revised definitions using references. So on page 6, we had the word feeble, which is another word we talked about yesterday. Let's see here, feeble. We were talking about the inhabitants. Moving on, here it is in paragraph 6. It says, Mary snorted and shook her head. Don't be ridiculous, she said. That's at least 2 weeks' walk away. How could these feeble people travel that far? How could they carry enough food for them? Where would they get enough food unless we emptied our storehouse and gave them everything? So we're talking about the people who have emerged from underground. And what we know about them from the first part of the story is that they are tired and they are hungry. So those would be our context clues from our story that we could add here. It said they are tired and hungry, which leads us to believe that the definition might mean, we said yesterday in our story when we read, that they are weak. I'm going to go to my dictionary and I'm going to type in the word feeble and check my thoughts. And here it says feeble, without strength, weak in body or mind. So we were right on the money with that one. I should have made my screen larger. The next word is inhabitants from paragraph 7. Inhabitants. Wilmer nodded, knowing she was right. The people of Sparks knew of only 3 other settlements, and they'd heard from the roamers that those places were smaller and poorer than Sparks. Their inhabitants wouldn't want extra mouths to feed either. So in this paragraph, we're talking about other settlements, and we're talking about the travelers going there. So their inhabitants must mean talking about 3 other settlements. Those are my context clues. So we're inhabitants. Their inhabitants. So 3 other settlements. Their inhabitants. Leads me to believe inhabitants must be the people who live in the settlements. Okay, I'm going to go back to my dictionary and I'm going to type in inhabitants. And looky there, someone or something that lives in a place. Our next word is misfortune from paragraph 9, which is on our next page. Let's turn the page. Paragraph 9. And I'm looking for, I forgot my word, misfortune. What I fail to understand, said Ben, is why this particular misfortune has happened to us. He paused to look into the air to his left and frowned. Now, I'm a little confused with this one because it says, this particular misfortune has happened to us. And I'm not sure what he's talking about. So I'm going to go back to the page before and see what the last paragraph says. It says, the 3 of them gazed out of the window and down the moonlit plaza, filled with strange sleeping people from a city under the earth. 400 of them, with no food, no possessions to speak of, and nowhere to go. So we're talking about the people of the settlement of Sparks, and they're talking about looking out the window and seeing all these people who've emerged from this underground city, and the fact that there's a lot of them. There's 400 of them. They have no food, no possessions to speak of, and nowhere to go. So I am thinking, no, I want to highlight, I can't. But that is the part that he's saying is the misfortune that's happened to us. That makes a little more sense to me. So I'm going to type over here to start with 400 people with no food, no possessions. Possessions are things, clothes, and I spelled it wrong. Missed my second S. And nowhere to go. And then I think about the word misfortune. Prefix miss, means like misspell, to spell something wrong. So that prefix miss has that connotation or that meaning of not doing what it should be doing, or to not be good, incorrect, not a positive thing. Fortune is like a good thing. It's a good thing that happens. Like a fortune, it could be a lot of money, or I'm fortunate, I'm lucky that that happened to me. So a misfortune is something that's not lucky or not good or we're not happy about. So I'm thinking that misfortune, this is something that they would probably not be happy to have, right? All these people that they're trying to figure out how to take care of. So I'm going to say that I think misfortune means something not good. And then I'm going to go back to my dictionary and I'm going to type in misfortune. And it says an instance of something very bad or unlucky happening. So there we were right about that one. Makes sense, right? Wouldn't be a very happy situation for all that to happen to a settlement who's barely surviving on their own. Copy it correctly. There we go. Next word is adversity, also in paragraph 9. So we already know in paragraph 9 they're talking about some things that they wish had not really happened. So let's see what we can figure out with this word adversity. He paused, looked into the air to his left, and frowned. This was a habit of his. He seemed to need a pause and frown every now and then to put together his thoughts. Wilmer and Mary had gotten used to waiting through these pauses. I don't see that we deserve it, Ben went on after a few seconds, having labored as diligently as we have, and just when we were starting to prosper at last after so many years of, well, adversity is a mild word for it. Okay. It says, and just as we were starting to prosper. Prosper, I know, means to do well. It says, well, adversity is a mild word for it. So it says, and just when we were starting to prosper. I know that sorry guys, I can't type and talk. I know that they were prospering, they were doing well. And they just said that what's happening is a misfortune. It's not good. It's something we'd rather not happen. So in that case, I'm thinking that adversity must mean, again, kind of a negative connotation, kind of a bad feeling word. So maybe it means kind of like misfortune. Maybe it means something that's like not good or the opposite of doing well. So I'm going to put doing bad. That's not the best choice of words, but doing bad or not well. And I'm going to check myself and see what happens. Adversity. Okay, and it says a condition of trouble or difficulty, so a time of trouble, which goes with what we said. A condition of trouble. And then we're down to our last word, which is exchange, in paragraph 15. A good thought, said Mary, and Wilmer beamed. So what about this? Mary went on. We'll let them stay in the Pioneer. We'll give them water and food. We do have some extra in the storehouse. In exchange, they work. They help us in the fields. They help with building. They do whatever there is to do. So it says they're going to let them do this, and in exchange, they do that. So I kind of have a give and a take here, right? I have if they do this, in exchange, they do that. So I'm going to put in my box for context clues. I'm not going to actually copy the words. I'm going to move this out of our way. This up here. I'm going to kind of paraphrase in my own words because that's a lot to type, right? The actual clues. So I'm just going to say what's happening. The people of Sparks will let them stay if they work and help them. Okay, so those are kind of my clues. They're going to let them stay, in exchange they work. So it makes me feel like that exchange means to give and take. One person gives and the other person takes something. So I'm going to put to give and take. And then I'm going to look up that actual definition. Exchange, whoa, if I can type. And I see that exchange means to give in return for something else or to trade, which is kind of what give and take means, right? We're trading. I'm going to add that to my box. All right, my friends. So in this lesson, we together looked at some words from our story that we're going to finish reading today in class. And we'll annotate and make some other notes today. But it helps when you come across words that you don't know, that you have a strategy. You have a way to figure out what it means so that the rest of what you're reading makes sense. Because if it doesn't make sense, then you're going to get to the end and be like, I don't even know what I just read. So remember, look for clues in the sentence, clues before that sentence, and clues after that sentence in order to think of what that word might mean.